Hello, everybody. This is Past the Salt. I am Bryce Vega, Buffalo Bills fan, and I hope you join me in raising a glass, or in my case, a beer bottle, to celebrate Brian Daboll's hiring as the New York Giants head coach. I have mixed emotions about Brian Daboll's departure from the Buffalo Bills. On one hand, I am happy for him. Good for him. These opportunities are rare. A couple of years ago, he found himself out of the NFL and working in the college ranks as the offensive coordinator of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Won a national championship there with Tua Tagovailoa as his quarterback. And the Buffalo Bills went out of their way to take him back into NFL ranks and make him their offensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator of their now first round pick quarterback, Josh Allen. He's had some success, I would say, as the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. And at the same time, as a fan of the Buffalo Bills, I have found him to be an extremely frustrating play caller over the years. And his philosophy on offense has been somewhat, how should I say, strange. Brian Daboll has had an interesting career where he's made multiple stops over several teams, and I believe he's even been a coach, a position coach, in every single team in the AFC East. Brian Daboll worked for many years in New England. I believe he was also in Miami for a short stint. I believe he was the quarterbacks coach for Brett Favre when he was in that one weird year that Brett Favre played for the New York Jets. And obviously, he was the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator from 2018 through 2021. Through his tenure as the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator, he's had an up and down career. Not all necessarily his fault. He did come into a really rough situation in 2018. Just as a little history lesson here, the 2017 Bills had Rick Dennison as their offensive coordinator. Rick Dennison was not up to Sean McDermott's liking, so he was fired after 1 year, and the Buffalo Bills pursued Brian Daboll. I'm not going to talk about 2018. I have a beer with me. I'm going to take a quick sip out of that. But I am going to need a lot of more alcohol, hard alcohol, if I'm going to dredge up memories from 2018. So, if anything, I'm just going to skip that and go straight to 2019. A much happier year, but at the same time, a frustrating year. Buffalo Bills had a bit of a hot start, I would say. I remember them starting 3-0, and then that little parade that we were all having over starting 3-0 was quickly blown up by the New England Patriots coming to Buffalo and beating up on the Bills. The 2019 season just wasn't a very productive season for the Buffalo Bills on the offensive side of the ball. For the most part, the defense, which was ranked top five, beat up on a cupcake schedule that the Bills had that season, reached a 10-6 record, and made the playoffs as the fifth seed. Played the Houston Texans on wildcard weekend and got bounced. There were a couple of low points for the Buffalo Bills, especially offensively again. And I'll never forget the disaster that was the Buffalo Bills versus the Cleveland Browns, in which I don't know what Brian Daboll was thinking. That was one of the most embarrassing losses in the Sean McDermott era, especially given that the Buffalo Bills gave Freddie Kitchens one of his very few victories as a head coach. Since the Cleveland Browns victory, Brian Daboll decided to not call plays from the sideline and went up to the booth. To be honest with you, I don't remember if he first started off the booth and then came down. Like I said, 2018 is some of the darkest times I've experienced as a Bills fan, and I'd rather not think about it. Uh, but it was very remarkable, or at least I certainly remember Brian Daboll having to go up to the booth to call plays, and the reason for this was the loss to the Cleveland Browns, who were spiraling. They were in a downward spiral. They sucked. It was so many people had picked them to be a Super Bowl team, and they were just imploding from within. And somehow the Buffalo Bills found a way to lose to them. And it irks me that in a matchup between Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield has the upper hand on Josh Allen. I know quarterbacks are not on the same field. Opposing quarterbacks are not on the field at the same time, but still, hate the fact that that's a game out there. Anyway, not don't want to go into that tangent. The game between the Bills and the Cleveland Browns on 2019 was so bad that I remember that being the time when many people were starting to call for Brian Daboll's head. At least that's the first time I remember many people coming out and saying that. And some of the stuff going on offensively in 2019 just didn't make sense. As a fan, I was just happy that the team didn't look as bad as it did in 2018. And I was willing to give some excuses here and there and be patient with Brian Daboll because the turnover on the offensive side of the ball from 2018 to 2019 was enormous. You know, I your two top weapons were brand new, and your top weapons were John Brown and Cole Beasley. And when your top, when your top weapons are John Brown and Cole Beasley, I hope you're not planning on throwing any 50-50 balls with those guys who neither of them get anywhere near 6 feet tall. John Brown is a speedster, and Cole Beasley is a nasty, nasty um, route runner. Great, great route runner, but at the same time, these are not the ideal weapons that you want to develop your young quarterback. No, no, there was no real safety blanket for second year Josh Allen. Nowhere to be found. So I wanted to be fair to Brian Daboll and not criticize him too much for some of the lack of success experienced by the 2019 Buffalo Bills offense. But at the same time, I just can't overlook the fact that Brian Daboll was calling some plays that he should have known are impossible to execute with the talent that he had. You cannot expect a guy like, I don't know, Patrick DeMarco to go out there and run routes and act as a wide receiver or some sort of competent receiver. Man's a fullback. And I bring up Patrick DeMarco because I love the meme of Josh Allen throwing the fullback bombs. Like, before there was, Joe Burrow, F it. Jamar Chase is somewhere down there. There was Josh Allen, F it. Patrick DeMarco is somewhere down there. And guess what? Patrick DeMarco was not catching that ball in a million years. Yet, for whatever reason, the Buffalo Bills were lining up Frank Gore, people like Frank Gore and Patrick DeMarco out wide. And I was sitting there watching on my couch thinking, geez, I hope I hope they're playing zone defense because if this is man to man, this is gonna go poorly, real fast. And to go back to what happened between the Browns and the Bills in 2019, Brian Daboll gets sent up to the booth, and he never comes down from it. And to be perfectly honest, I this might be an ignorant comment, but I never liked the fact that he never came down from the booth. Something about it always screamed to me that Brian Daboll just didn't have a good sense of the game. Smart man, talented man, well loved by the players. The way Josh Allen, Cole Beasley talk about Brian Daboll is just like they're talking about their loving father. So obviously this is somebody that players want to play for and somebody who listens to them. I remember listening to a story from Gabriel Davis when he first joined the Bills, where he was talking about how Brian Daboll would FaceTime him and check up on him and see how he was doing in his personal life and be a very caring coach for him and also talking ball, obviously. And while he might have some of these really good interpersonal skills between him and his players, something about game day was always off with Brian Daboll. He would make weird, bizarre calls too often. And it was weird to see him make these calls when he doesn't have the personnel to execute them. And some of the stuff that he was able to execute during the 2020 season and 2021 happened because he had a steed for as a quarterback in Josh Allen, just making the impossible possible. I hate to make this comparison, but at time Brian Daboll reminded me of Mike McCarthy with Aaron Rodgers when Mike McCarthy had just basically given up on being a good head coach or a good coach overall. He would just call some play, some impossible play, and be like, "Hey, Aaron, figure it out." And Aaron Rodgers just be like, "Okay, I guess I'll throw this 80-yard bomb that hopefully will be caught by my receiver." At the same time, Brian Daboll's offense is predicated on route running. The Bills don't really have a a burner out there. I don't think you can call Sam McKenzie a burner like John Brown. And it's mainly predicated on route running and being able to get open through those skills. Cole Beasley is great at it. Emmanuel Sanders is great at it. And Stephon Diggs is arguably the best at route running. And in Brian Daboll's offense, he gave a lot of his receivers option routes. Basically saying, if you get this, run this route. If you get that, run that route. And many of his receivers at the same simultaneously had option routes to run at any given play. That to me was infuriating to see and to notice when watching the Bills play offense. Because, come on, you got three wide receivers on the field. All of them apparently have option routes, and you somehow expect Josh Allen to process that so much information in such a quick time when all your receivers are potentially running multiple routes. Some of Josh Allen's weird interceptions are because some sort of miscommunication or misunderstanding as to where the route was going. Josh Allen sees his receiver. He thinks he's gonna turn left, or he's going, and he throws the ball in a certain angle, However, the receiver actually goes the other way, and then the ball ends up in the DB's hands. Boom, intercepted. Was it a miscommunication from Allen? A misunderstanding from Allen? Did the receiver run the wrong route? Impossible to tell, in my opinion. But at the same time, it's not making Josh Allen's life any easier when you have all your wideouts just potentially going crazy. And I'm also fairly certain that Cole Beasley was not given routes to run. He was just told, "Hey man, you're the zone beater. You do you, boo. Go get it. Unless it's third and Cole, and then we're looking for you." So that was frustrating to watch for Brian Daboll's offenses, and him being on the booth, not on the ground with Allen and the rest of the offense to talk with them one on one was disappointing for a couple of years now. And I know that there's coordinators that call from the booth, but like there's a difference. If you've ever been managed in life, there's a difference in being in having your manager nearby to help you, as opposed to it being a remote manager who can't really have easy access to you when something needs to be figured out. How helpful it would have been if Brian Daboll was on the sideline as opposed to on the booth with Josh Allen, trying to calm him down or work things out with him in person during the Jacksonville Jaguars game and say, "Dude, breathe. Let's not let's not take the stop throwing these interceptions. Stop going deep. We need to matriculate the ball down the field, especially because the offensive line is just getting you killed out there, buddy." So I don't think Brian Daboll had a good feel for the game. On the other hand, like I mentioned, players love him. So, New York Giants fans, what are you getting with Brian Daboll as your head coach? Well, from all reports, it seems that you're also getting Ken Dorsey as your offensive coordinator. Ken Dorsey has been the quarterback's coach for Josh Allen since 2019. Prior to that, I think the only other job in the NFL that was of note was being the quarterback's coach for Cam Newton. And that concerned me as a Bills fan. I was always of the mindset like, well, geez, is this the coach, or is this part of the offensive staff that coached Cam Newton into an early or into a short career? No thanks. I'm hoping Josh Allen will have a long career. But that might be just me being an asshole. And I am an asshole. So there's a lot of Bills fans that were hoping that Ken Dorsey would be the Bills offensive coordinator once Brian Daboll left. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, or at least from the reports that I'm seeing on Twitter. And if that's true, if some of the reports here saying that Brian Daboll wanted to make his leaving or joining of a team conditioned on Ken Dorsey coming with him as his offensive coordinator, I just have a few words for Daboll. Hey, buddy, fuck you. Not only are you leaving the team, but you're gutting it from its QB coach. You know, how about you pound sand, asshole? Uh, I'm saying all this without knowing whether or not Ken Dorsey's going with him. And I also have my reservations about Ken Dorsey. I have my reservations about the Buffalo Bills running an EP system. But anyway, I digress. New York Giants fans, what are you getting in Brian Daboll? You're getting somebody that players love. You're getting somebody who knows how to design some really good plays. You're getting somebody that has worked in many organizations with many different head coaches and has probably built some outstanding relationships on his many stops. And you're also getting somebody who I think offensively was carried by Josh Allen during the 2020 season and the 2021 season. Somebody who, like I've detailed, I don't think has a very good feel for the game. And something that I haven't talked about, somebody who likes to ignore, or at least I perceive likes to ignore, entire positions in the football field. During his tenure with the Buffalo Bills and in other stops, he just didn't give a crap about the tight end position. And that was notable. That was very notable. That was notable in how, for the past few weeks of the 2021 season and into the 2022 playoffs, the only tight end on the active roster was Dawson Knox for the Buffalo Bills. One tight end. I've never seen that. I have never seen a team roll in with one tight end. And I know that you have to make the numbers work. And when the Buffalo Bills want to, roll in with 20 defensive ends and 30 defensive tackles, the numbers are not going to add up. So you need to bring in, you need to cut somewhere. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but come on. It's odd to see somebody who for many years was a tight ends coach at New England, even during years where Rob Gronkowski was the tight end in New England, he was his tight ends coach. And for him to just pay no attention to that position was odd. And I know that Dawson Knox had his injuries, but Dawson Knox was not the only tight end on the roster. He also seemed unconcerned in developing Dawson Knox during his early portions of the career, and it wasn't until his modestly called breakout season in 2021. Guys, look at the numbers. I don't know if Dawson Knox really broke out, if he just dropped the ball last. Anyway, um, Brian Daboll just didn't work in the tight ends much. At the same time, while he was having Josh Allen throw the ball all over the yard during the 2020 season, he really neglected the running game. The running game really did not take off in 2020, and in 2021 for a while there it was even worse. So this is somebody who really likes, who's in the camp of passing over running every day of the week. And obviously, passing the ball is much more efficient and better than running the ball. But at the end of the day, you can't just throw the ball every single time. They're gonna key up on you and stop you. So the fact that it took him so long to try to get some semblance of a competent running game in Buffalo in 2021 was certainly concerning, and it showed that Brian Daboll might be somebody who doesn't take advantage of every tool at his disposal. But at the end of the day, no coach is perfect. I expect that he will have a healthy career in over the New York Giants. Um, I'm happy that he's leaving the Buffalo Bills, but not because I think he was an abject disaster. I just think that I want a more well rounded offensive coordinator in Buffalo. I want somebody who will not neglect the tight end position. I want somebody who will try to work in the running game. I want somebody who is aware of his personnel's limitations and skills and not run Devin Singletary to the outside 5 times for no gain during a divisional round in the playoffs against the Chiefs and just ugh. Somebody who is aware of what his players can't and can't do and call plays accordingly and do whatever it takes to put his players in a position to succeed. At the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills lost against the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round of the playoffs because of a meltdown in the last 13 seconds of the game, in which they allowed the Kansas City Chiefs to tie the game at 36-36, which led to the overtime loss, 42-36, Kansas City Chiefs. And that game should have not been played at Kansas City. That game should have been played at Orchard Park. Several games that were lost during the 2021 regular season were lost because of the offense that the Bills put up out there. Week 1 against the Steelers, I know that week 1 can be funky and give you weird results, but at the end of the day, that was an unacceptable loss to an awful offensive team, and you just couldn't score enough. You only scored 2 field goals against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you were dead. You were dead against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the first half of that football game. And the only reason the Buffalo Bills even came back was because they were just playing prevent defense for the second half and had to turn it on once the Buffalo Bills caught up. Several offensive the one truly defensive meltdown during the regular season was against the Colts and arguably against the Titans because they really didn't stop them. And that turned into a track meet, and unfortunately the Bills found themselves at the bitter end of that track meet where they just didn't score enough points with their athletes against Tennessee's athletes. Mixed results. Now, while I don't think very highly of Brian Daboll as an offensive coordinator, who gives a fuck about my opinion? I'm just a dude talking into a microphone. But even though I don't think very highly of him, that doesn't necessarily mean that he can't make a good head coach. Head coach is about leadership, delegation, and making sure that you have your team ready on all 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. Like I mentioned, players love Brian Daboll. I'm pretty sure that today is a dark day for some of the players that love Brian Daboll in Buffalo. Josh Allen amongst them. His biggest and his other biggest fan is Cole Beasley, and nobody. It just cannot be faked. Whenever the Buffalo Bills players are asked about Brian Daboll, you can see how their faces light up with happiness and love and adoration for the guy. So he's a great person, and probably a good football coach too. Over the season, I felt bad about criticizing him because he's gone through some awful losses in his personal life. He lost both grandparents during the 2021 regular season, and in Brian Daboll's case, his grandparents were basically his parents. So I felt bad about criticizing him because I knew what he was going through, but at the same time, it was frustrating to watch the Bills just not be themselves, be flat on offense for many weeks, and even have games like week 2 against the Miami Dolphins. Fuck you, Dolphins, by the way. Um, where the Bills won 35-0. And offensively speaking, it was a bad game. The offense did not look good. Josh Allen did not look good. There were other games like that, and actually the second game against the Miami Dolphins at Orchard Park played out similarly to that. Now the Buffalo Bills have to find an offensive coordinator. As I mentioned, it looks like Ken Dorsey might be going with Brian Daboll. I raise my beer bottle to you guys again. Best of luck. Before I talk about what this might look like for the Buffalo Bills, I actually find it kind of odd that Brian Daboll went with the New York Giants. No offense to the New York Giants organization, but you guys are not in a very good position. I don't know if a rebuild is coming, maybe, but it's obvious. It's obvious to everybody looking. The cap situation for the New York Giants is going to be bad. Dave Gettleman offered some truly awful contracts to free agents, and the New York Giants organization is now saddled with them. Drafting has not been good for the past couple of years under Dave Gettleman. So much so that the Giants were one of the teams that passed on Josh Allen, and they picked Saquon Barkley over him. Oof. Not that the Giants had any shot of developing Josh Allen. He would have flamed out there, in my opinion. And on top of all of that, they've gone through three head coaches right now that have been fired in a short span in their careers. Ben McAdoo. I don't know how long Ben McAdoo was there. I think 2 years maybe. Ben McAdoo, Shermer, and now. Oh, why am I blanking out um on the guy from New England? Joe something. The masochist. Hmm. And they don't have a really good quarterback. They have Daniel Jones, a guy who is physically very talented on many aspects, but has very poor pocket presence, prone to throwing the ball into the wrong team's hands, and is coming off a pretty brutal neck injury. I think everybody and their mother expects Brian Daboll to go to the New York Giants and maybe even have an invite for Mitchell Trubisky, the current Buffalo Bills backup quarterback, and maybe even offer him a chance to start after some QB competition at training camp between Daniel Jones and Mitchell Trubisky. That could be interesting. I'm of the opinion that Mitchell was given a raw deal in Chicago, so he could find himself being the starter at New York. But that's not an ideal situation. Offensive line is awful in New York, and I don't know if Brian Daboll is a good judge for offensive line, given that there's been some turmoil at the offensive line over at Buffalo. Receiving core is not bad. They do have Kadarius Toney, and I'm blanking out, but they also have the. Oh, I think they have Golden Tate. Um, Actually, let me look that up. Uh, and who's the other receiver there? The guy that they got from the guy that they got from the Detroit. Kenny Galladay. Oh, and they still have Sterling Shepard. Is he still there? Oh, and Darius Slayton's not bad, and they signed notable speedster John Ross. Bricks for hands, but hey, John Ross can run very fast. Defensively, the Giants looked good on defense in 2020, and I don't think they were really good on defense in 2021. So who knows what work has to go in there. Seems to me that Brian Daboll is walking into a situation similar to what Sean McDermott walked into when he came in to the Bills back in 2017. Disastrous contracts, you know, really staring at cap problems and potentially needing an overhaul both in culture and offense and defensive mentality. Best of luck to you, Brian Daboll. Thank you for everything you did for the Buffalo Bills. I don't exactly credit you for the development of Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen developed himself, and you and Sean McDermott were just patient enough to let him reach his potential. But the actual hard work of fixing all that was wrong with him, that was certainly something that I think we can all acknowledge Josh Allen did for himself. So you're not taking Josh Allen with you. I hope that if I'm wrong, you're able to develop a QB and have success in the future. I certainly don't want to see you unemployed. And if we find a better offensive coordinator, I don't want you back in Buffalo. But you'll always be Bills Mafia. You are a Western New Yorker. Again, for like the 40th time during this recording, best of luck, Brian Daboll. Now, what is in store for the Buffalo Bills? As I've mentioned now a couple of times, looks like Ken Dorsey might go with Brian Daboll. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but that might not be the worst thing in the world. I'm a little concerned about Ken Dorsey being part of the staff that coached Cam Newton into a short career. On the flip side, he's also the quarterbacks coach that was part of the coaching staff that helped Cam Newton get an MVP and go to the Super Bowl. But let's not forget, Cam Newton had all the potential in the world when he came into the league, and he has shortly not lived up to the expectations that were there for Cam. And part of that was because the Carolina Panthers did not protect Cam Newton from himself. And his sadly short career was lost at the because Cam Newton died for the Carolina cause that did not land him a Super Bowl victory. Cam Newton had everything, physically, and in my opinion, even mentally and professionally, for him to have been a Hall of Famer. Sadly, I don't think that's going to be the case for him. And again, for the millionth time, Ken Dorsey was part of that staff that ruined Cam Newton. Now, the reason why I lay it out like that, Ken Dorsey was part of the staff, is because we don't know. We don't know if Ken Dorsey at any point told Cam Newton, "Hey, dude, how about you don't take so much punishment? How about you stay in the pocket? How about, I know that the receivers here in Carolina are not great, but we need you to have a long career. So throw the ball more and don't go out there taking all the tackles from every linebacker in the world." We don't know if that conversation ever happened, but from the way that Cam Newton played all the time, it just looked like there was no deterrence for him to not play the aggressive way that he played. On the flip side, maybe Sean McDermott and to an extent also Ken Dorsey looked at what happened to Cam Newton in his career, landed themselves Josh Allen in the draft, and said, We cannot repeat that. And maybe that's what's been going on. Josh Allen has certainly done a better job of sliding and not taking unnecessary hits, especially early on in the season. So who knows? My reservations about Ken Dorsey might not be well founded. And at the same time, we just don't know how good he is as a play caller because, to the best of my knowledge, Ken Dorsey has never called plays at any level, college or professional. Where does this leave the Buffalo Bills when they might be losing out on both their offensive coordinators and the quarterback's coach? I don't know if they can hire from within. Who would they hire from within? I am personally a bit of a fan of wide receivers coach for the Buffalo Bills, Chad Hall. He used to be a wide receiver at the NFL level. I don't think he had much success, and he's actually a pretty young coach. I believe 35 years old, if I remember correctly. Looks a lot like Cole Beasley, actually. And, you know, the wide receivers in Buffalo play really well. We've seen some amazing development from Gabriel Davis, a fourth round pick. Isaiah McKenzie has gone from cast off to significant contributor to the offense. Stephon Diggs had a career year when he first came into the Buffalo Bills, and Cole Beasley has been doing Cole Beasley things for a long time. But I would be I would not be doing uh, service to Chad Hall if I didn't mention how impressed we all were when John Brown came to the Bills and showed that he was really good at route running, and that he wasn't just a speed guy, that he could actually execute the entire route running tree. I obviously don't have insider information or know what's going on in each position group's room and how they're being coached by their position coach. But if I had to pick between in that offensive staff between the tight ends coach, wide receivers coach, offensive lines coach, quarterbacks coach, um, I would say Chad Hall seems to have done an extremely fantastic job. I also think that he's probably a little too young for this job. I hope that if the Bills have to go outside to hire an offensive coordinator, that they'll put a little pin in Chad Hall's role with the Buffalo Bills and maybe even give him a small promotion and call him the passing game coordinator, just in case he might be the heir apparent or the offensive coordinator sometime down the line. Um, I think he's a guy worth keeping. As for people outside of the organization, I like a guy like Doug Peterson. I think he's worked with Sean McDermott back when they were both in Andy Reid's staff with the Philadelphia Eagles. I would like. Who else is out there actually? Um, I mean, I could rattle off a couple of names, but they're already just offensive coordinators, so I don't think they would do a lateral move. Um, I don't know if Caldwell is willing to take an offensive coordinator job with the Bills. He's already up there in age, and I think he views himself and he is head coach material, but for whatever reason he just is not getting the nod anywhere. In fantasy land, I would love the Bills to hire Sean Payton to be their offensive coordinator. But that's not gonna happen. I don't know who the Bills are gonna get. This is probably not the best case scenario, given that Dorsey seems to be leaving with Daboll. Um, I would actually like the Bills to consider something though. Like if they are forced that to not hire from within and to have to look outside, which I'm all in favor for. Get in new blood, bring in new ideas, challenge yourself. But I would actually like the Buffalo Bills to look within and tell themselves or ask themselves, now that Brian Daboll is gone and he took what everybody thought was his heir apparent with him, do we as an organization now decide to switch from the EP system over to West Coast? EP system has been great for a man like Thomas Brady, who has mastered the art of the 3 yard pass. But a guy like Josh Allen can score a 75-yard touchdown at will. So I'm not sure if relying on these offenses or play designs predicated on and route running and getting no yak, by the way. I used to think that Josh Allen was not getting any yak from his receivers because he might have read the play late and he was just rifling everything in. But no, I just think that the design of these plays from Brian Daboll were probably designed to get a good chunk of yardage, but they were not gonna get any yak because they were just gonna get tackled immediately. But I, I would love for the Bills to switch over to a West Coast offense. Now I know that means that that would be a ginormic overhaul. Like that's a whole new playbook, whole new set of plays that now the receivers have to learn. Josh Allen has to learn, and suddenly they have to build a different type of chemistry. And I don't think McDermott's gonna do it. I think they're gonna stick with the EP system because Sean McDermott is very good. Is high on continuity. So if his offenses have been doing EP for the longest time, he's going to continue doing executing the Eric Perkart system. But all I ask, all I want, is for you to at least give it a serious consideration. Consult with Josh Allen, consult with whatever key members are staying with the organization, and just ask. We have an opportunity here to switch the offensive system. What do you think? And just have that conversation. Now we're gearing up for championship weekend. Bengals are going to be facing off the Chiefs, and the 49ers are going to take on the Rams. Um, a while ago, I was thinking, you know what? I like Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has been nothing but a consummate professional. And I hope he wins the ring, especially now that my Bills are out of contention. But then I realized, oh wait, that's right. I am a petty Bills fan who hates the Dolphins. Hates them. Oh my god. Erase that franchise from history. Frauds, all of them. Stanky fishes. Go back to 1972 and explode. I'm actually now rooting for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl so that the Dolphins' first round pick is the last pick of the first round. Because guess what? Fuck you, Dolphins. Anyway, I don't think I have much to say. Thank you again to Brian Daboll for everything. Good luck with the New York Giants. The Bills don't have to see you other than once every 4 years. And don't take any more than you have to. Don't be a prick and try to steal as much as you can from the Bills because that's poor sportsmanship. Go Bills.